Well said.
All righty, thank you, Steve. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, 9 January 2023, and this is a special meeting of the Waterville Valley Board of Selectmen. I am Rich Reeder, the chair, and along with me today is Margaret Turner, the vice chair, and Bob Freeze, select board member. I see a goodly number of people here, 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. So obviously I or the select board have done something wrong to have such a turnout, but let's see what it is. So let's go ahead and since we have a quorum, let's go ahead and start with the first item on the agenda, which is the stories of Waterville Valley. So the discussion here is, and we've received, I should say at the outset, we've received a number of emails from folks that have commented on the proposal, which I think some of you have seen, that Marvin Weinberger has put together. And I think it's safe to say that every single one of the emails we received was against going forward with a warrant article to put in front of the town on the Stories project. I don't know to what extent folks here would like us to go over the history of it, or shall we just move right into a discussion of it and see what the folks.
I think we should
Go ahead.
say why. I think in order to get a proposal from him, he told the select board that he needed a figure that the town may or may not be interested in putting forward. Otherwise, he had nothing to go on in order to put a proposal together. So at least from my perspective, we weren't saying that we were in favor of this or opposed to it.
Correct.
We were just giving a figure that if there was a positive response to it, that this is maybe how much the town might consider putting in to be added to by grant money and other things.
Right.
So it wasn't an endorsement of the selectmen. It was just to bring the issue forward. So.
And I do think it is an issue that the town ought to have a chance to decide.
Yeah.
I don't think, getting emails in from, I think it was 5 people,
Right.
okay, who were obviously vehemently opposed. And when you have something comes up that people don't like, that's when they come out of the woodworks and send the emails. Barn on the beach being one of the things that happened. But we had far more emails on that than we have had on this. And I really think it's an issue that people need to consider and decide whether they're interested in or not. I know some of the emails, for instance, are inaccurate in terms of what would actually happen out there on the trails. When I go geocaching, for instance, I have my phone with me, but there's nothing that dings. There aren't any signs out there, that kind of thing. But when I get close to a place where there's a geocache, I get a little alert on my phone. Okay. And so I'm not going along playing music, looking for signs, scanning QR codes or any of those kinds of things. The trails are still the trails. So I just mention that as somebody who thinks I believe this should go on the warrant for the simple reason that it takes walking our trails a step further than it is right now. And if we don't start to take some of those steps, we're going to fall behind other areas in terms of the kinds of things they're doing.
Okay. I think both, let me just very quickly comment. I think that both Bob and Margaret express the sense of the board. It's my opinion as well. The project springs from the town decision and select board decision, but verified by the town at a town meeting several years ago to expand the part of our rec department that dealt with hiking. So we created a couple of badge, I think 3, I think we're up to 3. And the idea was to get better at the hiking part of our resort, which has slid somewhat since, well, for quite some time, actually, as pointed out by a number of folks that wrote letters in terms of the conditions of the trail and in trails. And in fact, the town had put in quite a large sum of money into improving the signage and the trails within the town proper area itself. And I see Brooke here, and I'd like her to make a couple comments. Are you ready to walk in cold and make a couple comments? Just talking about the history of why we're at where we are with Marvin, and that was sort of the next step. We thought, what can we do outside the town beside putting in, I think it's over $100,000 on signage
Well,
and
over the
trail work
years,
over
yes,
the years.
But that was, like you said,
Right.
all within the town proper, not out in the
Right.
national.
So this was thought as a sort of, what we're trying to do was connect the trails in town proper. That would be better, if I can just put it that way, to the trails out in the national forest. So Margaret, did you want to say anything? Then I see I had two hands, but let me just rope Margaret into this. So the four of us, I'm sorry, Brooke into this,
I've already been roped.
right? So that we can all hang together as opposed to separately.
So I didn't hear.
We just started that, the board's view was that we just want to put this in front of the town as a natural expansion of what we've been doing for several years and expanding the hiking portion of the rec department's programs.
So, once we started with our, initiative of hiking, we started first with the Redliner 125 pack, which was, identifying the 125 miles of trails that we have, which was really exciting. Then we went into the Pathfinder patch, which is something that's more on the valley floor. And then we got into the guidebook, which was super exciting. So the whole idea of sharing the hiking trails with everybody, and identifying that Waterville Valley is a wonderful place to hike. And then we went on to do the Skyline Loop, which is just an existing trails, and that was actually Brenda Conklin. Is she here?
No.
She was very helpful with that. Just basically putting together a really cool challenge for people to come and discover, and that's been very popular. We also have patches, which I'm sure you know, that go along, and we've had, many people are currently working on and have completed those patches, which are very exciting to talk about. And so then, we've had other programs, hiking, snowshoeing, all these things that we have all been really excited about sharing with guests, visitors, and also local folks. So now the next idea is what Marvin has suggested, which, is sort of sharing this amazing place with a much bigger audience, and also identifying, this very unique approach, which is to have sort of a guided hike, if you will, without the actual person, but you are in touch with the information on your own. So this was just the idea of expanding Waterville Valley, the uniqueness of Waterville Valley, and that's kind of where we're.
And the book, don't forget the book.
Oh, did I not mention the book?
Well, no, but if getting the information more widely disseminated, the
Yes.
information that's in the book, because a lot of it is overlapping with Marvin's,
Right.
with the stories.
Well, the
right?
town was
Well, that's
important
right.
with the book. I mean, the
That's
town
right.
was one of the,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where it would start.
right.
Right, and I think the other piece to this is a lot of the comments that you received, especially the written ones, talked about the lack of maintenance on the
Right.
trail and
Mhm.
and monies to do
Mhm.
that. I think one thing that is possible from what Marvin wants to do is the connections
Mhm.
to the foundations and the other groups
Mhm.
where we could potentially leverage some help to get trails maintained better.
Right.
I mean, I think this isn't just to do the marketing side. It's to make the contacts so that hopefully we can get money to help us do some maintenance as well. I think that's a possibility.
No, that's certainly one of the things that,
Yeah.
that we.
You also
intended to-
didn't mention, you've had reservations from groups through the rec department
Oh,
to come
yes.
and hike or snowshoe or
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of thing, yeah.
Large private
Right.
groups,
Yes.
small private groups. The more it gets out, you
Right.
know,
Not to mention the crazy people who come and run 39 miles and
right.
what was that? What's the rec?
It's under 8 hours.
Know that is
Yeah.
that our Skyline Loop, which is right here. This has kind of attracted this ultra runner group who comes and tries to do this in record period of time. And I mean, I'm sure this includes the Pride Pyramids, you know, all the 4,000 footers right here in the valley. And someone has done it, and I believe the record right now is 9 hours and something odd. So it's pretty incredible. I mean, that's just interesting.
And this has been written up in the
Yeah.
the magazines
This
of
is
the
what-
sport.
the FKT fastest known time website. I mean, that's just kind of an interesting fact.
So, how-
You should check it out. It's really interesting.
Right.
People do.
well, having flushed out his proposal,
Right.
which is what our intention was.
Yes.
It strikes me that we're talking about something that's $1 million project. And
Mhm.
I think it's something the town just can't afford at this point. I'm not in favor of it. I think $100,000 to do
Two tests
2 tests,
in 1 year. Right.
you multiply that by 500 sites he talks about.
Mhm.
And I think it's just impractical. I don't see any return on investment that's measurable. Maybe the inns will get some business, but I just don't see a measurable return on investment to the town.
Mhm.
And it strikes me as more money that we can afford with everything else we got on our plate in front of us right now.
And that's certainly one of the counters to
So
advancing this program.
I wouldn't vote to put it on the warrant at all.
Okay,
I'd kill it if it was me, but
okay. Well, we will vote on it. There will be, it will be you in the vote, but let me see. I think, okay, Mike,
Mike Farrell, River Road. Marvin has approached the foundation, so we are talking about it, but my question is, what's it take to get a warrant article? Isn't it just 10 signatures or something like that to be able to?
25.
25, does he have 25 signatures to be able to put?
Well, this isn't petitioned. This is right now a request for the board to put it on. So
Okay.
there is not a petition
So,
yet.
so the board just could say no. and
That's
then he could
correct.
go to
Then he could
25.
get a petition.
What is,
If you-
what is the date required for him to do? it?
February 2nd, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
And what
Have
is
the
he,
month of
what is
June.
he asking the board to do? I mean, I saw the
Put a
proposal of
warrant-
$100,000.
put a warrant article on for $100,000 with 50,000 of it to come from the town and 50,000 to come from grants.
Okay.
And the 50,000 doesn't come from the town until.
we get at
50,000.
least,
Until, yeah, we would
Until-
write it so that he would have to secure the grants before getting the town fund.
Okay, thank you.
and just quickly, this is not, although Marvin has been important in keeping this dream alive, if I may put it that way. As I said, it's the board, it's the town that has been pursuing this logically. And that's why the select board is considering this next step as part of our enhancement of the hiking experience in Waterville Valley. So that's why we didn't approach it as a citizen looking to put a petition warrant, a petition article on the warrant. Yeah, I saw, yes, hi, Amy.
Amy Sawyer, just a quick question. How many warrant articles are on the docket so far for March?
Too many.
Right now, 31, counting what will be voted on by ballot. So if you subtract those 3, 4, so
Right.
27 for the
It's gonna
delivery.
be a long night.
No, but we're
Well,
planning on splitting the meeting.
Well, we can split the
We
meeting,
have
however,
talked about splitting
that's
the meeting.
on the agenda for today to talk about.
Right.
But
Um,
27 is the largest number for
Right.
probably the last 10 years.
Well, I remember last year it was in the 20s as well. Well, it's been out.
Mhm.
21, 22. But the point is, a lot of those by law have to be separate warrant articles and this for small amounts of money or issues, right?
Mhm.
We got to do 40,000 for this or 20,000 for that. We can't lump them all together into one article, unfortunately. Did someone else have anyone wants to, yeah, please, Reggie?
Reggie Breckner on Mountain Meadow. I am very much in favor of improving hiking around here. I think Brooke and the rec department have done a terrific job. And I hope they continue. I don't think this is a project that is good for the valley. Just the idea of having phones, and I know Maureen, you said, you don't listen to your phone, but having that all out there, I think that's the wrong way to go. I think coming up with stories and maybe giving them on a website or in a packet you can purchase, it tells all about the different things on the valley, another book, whatever, is wonderful. But I don't think having people out on trails, listening to things and looking at their phones, and possibly, I've got a group of friends, I'm not gonna have all of them with the earbuds, we're all gonna listen to my phone. That takes away from the trail experience. I think that's not good. Secondly, my impression is that these are not just our trails, these are national park trails. Many of them. Okay. So he's got to go through them. And my understanding too with them is that it's not an easy process to put this warrant article ahead before he's got permission to deal with it. Put any of these things out there. It's just way too soon.
There's a bit of a chicken and egg argument there.
Exactly.
Well, he
we
has,
have talked.
he
Good.
has a general
Yeah,
letter of support from the Forest Service for the project. He does not have specific approval of every sign, but he does have a letter from
right.
the Pemmy Baker
And-
or the Pemmy District Ranger in support of
Right.
the concept.
The issue here is that until the town basically puts some skin in the game,
Right.
no one else is gonna go
Right.
further. And that's why we crafted the warrant article the way we did, is that we wouldn't give any money unless Marvin was able to secure funding of an equal amount. Another, Mike?
Mike Capel, Greenfield. Whether I'm in favor or opposed, this is something that the town in general should discuss and make a decision on. With all love and respect to the three of you. It goes beyond you, it goes up to the 400 and whatever it is voters we have. I think a warrant article is appropriate. You obviously don't have to say that you're in favor of the warrant
Correct.
article. But I think that it is incumbent upon you to put something of this magnitude on as a warrant. That's just my opinion.
Next.
Cindy Pecos, New Peak Road. I just don't think this is an appropriate time based upon all the groundwork that needs to be done on the floor of Waterville Valley. I think you're gonna come into a lot of opposition from people spending money on something like this where things need to be done, such as roads, our septic design, all of that. So I just don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment on that, Charles?
Charles Hastings, Noon Peak. I'm representing both, I'm here for both the Historical Society and the AIA. Both organizations have been dealing with this proposal of stories from Marvin for, I don't know. a year.
Years.
Yes,
Years. yeah.
he's been a bulldog.
And I'm on both boards and we have had extended discussions about it. I'm also independent of both boards. My wife Becca and I worked for 3 years on interpretive signs that were initiated by the Ray Center. These were winter signs that were just put in certain trails that we chose. And we took them down when the snow melted. It was mostly for cross-country skiers and snowshoers. And they were about this size. They were modest. They sort of stuck on the side in a snowbank where they would be fairly inconspicuous, but people could stop and look at them. And what we did on those signs, we had, I suppose, 30 or 40 of them. And we started out on the south end and did some on the north end. Is we tried to think of, and this is parallel to some of what Marvin's been talking about. And it has put me in a bit of a quandary as to how I feel about the whole project. And our signs, many of them were about historical items of interest. Some of them, I chose a lot of signs that had to do with geological interest. Glaciers, geomorphology, and so forth, that I found interesting. Becca often shows things that had to do with just literature and poetry, wildlife, birds, lichen, and so forth. And so we tried to think of some little nugget that could fit in a small sign. These were temporary. They chose little nuggets we wanted to present. The issue here is, well, Marvin, I don't quite know how the numbers, I read the proposal, the numbers of little stopping points, I think he said every quarter mile. Throughout the entire network, that's a staggering number of things. I couldn't possibly think of that many things to say.
Yeah.
There are two issues that are being discussed here. One, are we super gung ho and in favor of hiking and making this a popular place to come hike, to be known and associated with hiking? And the other is, are we going to be in favor of this kind of hiking experience? And some people have horrible, just horror stories about what this might mean in terms of walking along with their phones and having their earbuds or not earbuds and so forth. And that brings up a question: to what extent am I a Luddite because I don't like walking around with my cell phone when I'm out in the woods? I go to the woods to get away from all that. And so these are different attitudes, different approaches to the whole topic that are difficult to reconcile. I think you get down to the core of it. Honestly, Steve Smith's guidebook did that. That book, which is one of the most magnificent guidebooks certainly ever published in New England. I don't know of any other elsewhere that comes close to what he did with that. Is he goes into so much about history, natural history, all kinds of things about the trails and the setting. And it's already there in print. Now, someone mentioned you could look this up on a website rather than going out in the woods with your earphones on. You could do that, but the book is right there. How much do we want to make? Do we want to have sort of people carrying the book with them in terms of an electronic form of it? Is that a good strategy? Do we want to be known as that kind of a place? This valley has, in my sense, and I have a few decades here, a history of people get out and they love the nature, they love the forest, they love the trails. They love being at the end of the road, away from it all. We have to be a little careful about trying to keep up with other ski resort hiking destinations that have all kinds of electronic wizardry that you can plug into. I don't know if that should be our goal. I think we can make a goal, and I appreciate very much what the town has done in terms of trying to support hiking, trying and boosting its support for the AIA. We value that funding very much. And I will, in fact, AIA's meeting tomorrow night, I will pass along concerns that are being expressed here to them. But I think you can love hiking, you can promote hiking without doing it in this fashion. And you can have, we have all of the information, it's right there in the guidebook. It's accessible. It's sold in various places around town. I suppose it's in the library, it should be, it's not. And I hesitate about doing it. In terms of bringing this as a warrant article, I appreciate the perspective that, well, the town should decide if they want to make this kind of commitment. Yes, but it's a complex issue. And yes, the town could decide complex issues, but I don't know how well we can. It'll be a challenge if this goes as a warrant article to actually bring out all the ramifications of this as it's presented. And I don't like it. I hope this doesn't actually come to the valley, but I appreciate what it's trying to do. I'm not sure that it's the right way to do it.
Alan Zelbo, I would simply say this, and it's been mentioned a few times, is the ability to have an informed citizenry. I don't see the downside for creating, yes, it's self-serving. I don't see the downside for creating a warrant that can be discussed. You can give your input and say you were opposed at this time, maybe forever, but I don't see the downside to get it in a broader audience. And I think that's what it's all about. So I know it's a bit of a pain, but I think it should be more, have a more informed citizenry and let them decide. And it's likely they would not approve it. I mean, really, it's unlikely, but that they shouldn't be denied the ability to understand and perhaps have insight.
Yeah, they'd be basically, if they said no, they'd be making a statement of, let's keep it as much the way it is right now and work on the trail, so.
What
Yeah.
do they say?
Yeah, I see that.
My concern is because of all the other warrant articles, a no vote might just say, no, we're spending too much money this year. So a no vote might not actually be no to this. It might be no to this right now.
For the money.
Sure, yeah,
And
we've discussed that too as
it
a
would
down,
be
there's a
nice
downside.
to have the whole town discuss it, but is the whole town gonna be willing to spend 3 nights discussing these things? We have a lot of items and
Mhm.
as moderator, I'm planning on trying to figure out at what point do I say, okay, tonight we've done enough, we need to adjourn and come back tomorrow night.
Mhm.
Because that's probably what's gonna happen. And are people willing to come back 2-3 nights
Well,
to discuss
hey,
these
it goes
things?
with the territory, and what are you going to exclude to make it quicker?
One of the things I'm trying to encourage people to watch the Zoom meetings online, attend the information sessions so that people come prepared to the meetings.
And you can limit the debate.
And I can, but,
Right.
She
Don't
was
want-
the head of the wigwag coming out on February 1st, the lead story.
All right, right. Yes, Amy.
it sounds to me like it's a great idea. But not now, because the first thing we're gonna be talking about is something that can increase the tax rate significantly in 3 or 4 years. So chances are, I hear what you're saying, maybe it's just not the right times. It's not a bad thing, not the right time, especially since we've got so many articles. that
Right.
we put up.
And we've discussed that, and there are a number of other articles we worry that of money articles that will be turned down, not on the merits, but because of the $37 million bond article that we would be looking at, but
That's that's how I expect it to go.
yeah,
That's why I was asking to have that first.
I'm really afraid that this $100,000 is a drop in the bucket and that
No, it is.
we're gonna be committing ourselves to a long-term
Yeah.
money pit that
well,
that the town can't afford.
this is a 1 year, I mean, so if you look at 50,000, that's a little under 10 cents on the thousand. Or
I'm
per
looking
thousand.
beyond that. I'm not looking at the
If-
50,000 this year.
Yeah, I mean, if we go, I mean, I don't see it myself as locking us into a path. I mean, I see this as a 1 year. A 1 year test program and see if it works with the opportunity to make contacts. This is why I think now may be a good time. A lot of these contacts Marvin has already made. And even if this program doesn't come to fruition, those contacts are still there. And maybe we can leverage this into money for trail maintenance, either with the program or without the program, because I don't see any money for trail maintenance coming from the federal government. I don't see any money for trail maintenance coming from the town beyond what we're already giving. So where is this money going to come from if we don't try to move forward and think out of the box a little bit and see if we can't get some of this from organizations who have a number, and we have, I don't know, well over a dozen letters of support from all these sorts of organizations, whether it's All Trails or AMC. I mean, they all think this is a great idea. And they all come back and say, well, okay, but what's the town buy-in? And that's where we're at right now. Yeah, skin in the game.
This everything I've just heard. Again, microphone.
It's the debate.
Comes back to.
Right.
We've spent 15, 20 minutes on this.
Mhm.
I understand Patty's comment. However, every year you're gonna have issues. We have a huge issue coming up, which is gonna affect our tax rate. Long after probably.
25 years.
I'm 75, probably long after I'm gone. However, it is clear that there are people for it and against it. It should be brought up, it should be discussed. Let the, how many voters do we have, Patty? 480?
400 and something.
400 and something? 400 and something.
The most ever, right?
Right, the most ever. Most vote ever residents, most ever voters. Let them decide. That's, you know, always in favor of let the town decide.
So yeah, the question then becomes, should the selectmen put this on the warrant or should we go back and say, Marvin, this is your project, go get 25 signatures.
I have a question.
Yeah.
My understanding of a warrant item that the select board puts on does not have to say that it was approved 3-1,
No,
2-1.
no.
You can say
Nothing.
you have put it on, but you disapprove. My understanding.
You can say, you can put it on and
Yeah.
have no comment.
No comment. I think that would be the more likely,
I would say that, you know, I would say.
because why would we advance it?
Say,
Yeah.
putting it on with no comment makes absolute sense.
But why should the select board put it on? Why not make it a citizen?
Yeah. no.
Right. I don't see the value.
Because it's part of the program that we launched, we started several years ago. I mean, that's how it's in my mind. That's how I see it. That's why we've engaged with Marvin. This hasn't been Marvin sort of, you know, beating on the gates of the town saying we need to do this.
Did the select board talk to Marvin about this?
Oh, we've been in constant discussions.
I've never met the guy.
Whose idea is it? Is it the select board's idea?
No, it's originally Marvin's idea. He brought it to us. And I think, 2 years ago, I'm trying to remember now, we discussed it. We thought it was a great idea and we've been pursuing it since. And so we've come to the point. Go ahead.
Project was way bigger than what the rec department could handle. It
Right.
requires a lot more, so that's, I think, why it got to that point with the select board.
Right. But it just seemed like a natural thing to follow through on based on where we were trying to go, where the select board was trying to go with the hiking program. So that's why at this point, given that it costs money and we thought, at least I thought, let's just put it in front of the town and let the town decide if they want to go down this path or not, as the case may
And
be.
then producing support, letters of support from, you know.
All the big,
All the,
You
yeah,
started it.
big places, so that.
Yeah.
that was Interesting.
I think some of his letters of support, though, were asked for and given on an almost different project. When he started out with this whole thing was about the traverse, opening the 5-mile traverse from
Right.
Yeah.
Dickey over to Tecumseh.
That's right.
And that was what we were originally talking
But-
about.
Those were separate.
They were separate letters. These are, all the letters that
Yeah.
we're referring to are specifically for the Stories project.
Right.
That's changed things around a lot.
He has, but he has gone back to the
Right.
organizations and asked for their support of the Stories
Yeah, I
project.
think this is actually a completely different project.
Yes.
There's a lot going on all the time.
right. And that is another project, though, that it's in the bucket, so to speak, is one that we want to pursue. And one of the reasons it's changed over the last couple of years is that we've been in extensive discussions with him about how to pursue this and what to pursue first, what to pursue second. My druthers at the beginning was to pursue that circuit trail first and then move on to this. But as we talked through it, it seemed that this may be the better way to go, to get the ball rolling, so to speak, to make the contacts. So, I mean, it's just not Marvin sitting back home in Metro Philadelphia writing these things. We've had this extensive personal and Zoom discussions with him. And we were the ones who the board was the one which commissioned Marvin to create this proposal. So this is really, his proposal is really something that the board has commissioned.
And it's really what the town wants, it's very much a philosophical issue, you know, and I think it's gonna be what the town wants.
Part of it, yeah.
So, based on what you just said, Rick, I would suggest then that since the select board commissioned him to do this, it's up to the select board to put it on the warrant article. If the select board did not commission him to do it, then it's up to him to go with 25 signatures.
Yeah,
That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
yeah, no, I think I
Well, when you
think
say commission him to do it,
Mhm.
he wanted to give us a proposal, but he said the proposal, I need to know how much skin
Right,
the town's gonna put in the game.
yeah,
So when you say we commissioned him, it sounds like we hired him to go put this proposal together, which
We did,
We did,
we did.
we
You were
did.
against it, just to be sure.
Yeah, it was a 2-to-1.
It was a 2-to-1 vote.
It was a 2-to-1 vote and
I would
Yeah.
use the word we commissioned him. I would
All
say
right.
we asked.
We
asked
engaged
to see
him?
his-
We
his
engaged
proposal.
him.
but no, we commissioned him. We paid him money to
To put together a business plan.
proposal after our
You're right, yeah.
extensive discussions, yeah. And so that's where we're at. Yeah.
That's my opinion. If you guys open the door, you guys have to let the people through.
But you can decide to say next year. Put it on the next-
That's right, we can reject the proposal and say, no, we don't want to do it this year. Or no, we think the proposal is not a good proposal, it's not we had in mind, et cetera, et cetera.
Or we think you need to do some more work with the populace to convince them.
That's
This is a
always-
Thing before you get your
Mhm.
vote.
There's always that, yeah.
Just a small,
Yeah.
a bit of, point of information. Of all the people you've heard from, have anyone discussed this with the Thornboroughs?
With what?
The Thornburys.
Thornboroughs,
No.
no,
I don't think we've had any discussion.
you know who they are.
Yeah.
No.
Please.
Okay, he happens to be past chairman of the AIC. He is knowledgeable about these issues and where to go and what to do, et cetera. They are just not here in the winter time. They're here for boating and hiking in the summer. But
Mhm.
I just kind of surprised they got left out of all of them.
No, not really, because I had to look at the agenda.
Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, I would just suggest that
Mhm.
you have a meeting on Wednesday to finalize the draft budget for the public hearing.
Right,
Get a lot of great input from the
Yeah,
folks
that's where I was.
here. I
because there's gonna be more public, there'll be more
make a-
public hearings. on
Make
this,
a, think about it, make a decision on Wednesday,
yeah.
how
Right,
you want to do it.
right,
You may leave it in the budget for right now, take it to the budget hearing.
right,
Hopefully, there'll be more people than are
Yeah.
here today. You can get some additional comments because you don't have to make a final decision on including it in the warrant
right.
until the public
The public
hearing.
hearing,
Now,
right.
that will take away the ability to do a petition because the hearing's after
That's
the
not fair.
close. Well, but.
It's
but
not
you-
a petition.
You've just had input from 12 people. And like Mike said, the select board are the ones who requested this written proposal. Okay, so really, it's not in a petition sense at this point in time. Might be petition next year. But I think for this year, Mike, that your observation
Mhm.
is a good one, right? The board needs to make a decision on whether or not to put it on.
Mhm.
So it's a timing issue. Okay, you only have the rest of this month to make this decision.
Right, and
And-
from Marvin's standpoint, it happens this year, it happens next year.
Right.
This is technology,
It's not
gonna
going
change
away.
dramatically
That's
in-
right.
In 12
Yeah.
months. Everybody has
That's right.
iPhones. It doesn't need to be signs, it could be GPS
Right.
coordinated, you just walk up and all of a sudden, boom, some.
That's right.
bang on your phone and.
That's right. We are where we are now and
Technology's not
let's make a
changing
decision.
dramatically.
Right.
Yeah, let the
So-
select board make a decision, let the town make a decision.
So think about it over the next couple of days.
Yeah, we
Come
can do
back
that.
on Wednesday. And you can make a decision whether or not to put it on for, and then we can
As a public hearing.
advertise in the interest, Mike, for your comment. We can advertise after Wednesday what the board's decision was, right? Whether or not to put it on.
And then
And
it
if
goes
somebody
to a public
wants to
hearing.
petition it, if somebody wants to
More I
petition it.
hear.
They
More I
can.
hear
Mhm.
is that this is something that the select board, which I wasn't aware of until now, the select board has encouraged to happen.
Absolutely.
It is now at the point where the select board and the town have to put up or shut up. And I think that saying, well, we're not gonna decide this for another month, at which point in time it's too late for whomever is in favor of this to do this, all right, as a write-in. I think that's inappropriate.
I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you.
Sure.
This is gonna go to hearing.
Right.
It's
Yeah, we'll
gonna
have
go
a
to
public
budget
hearing.
It's gonna be a warrant on the budget hearing. at that time,
right,
the 50 people, 100 people that go to the hearing will say, we want this warrant article to be on there. Or those 50, 100 people say, get that warrant article out.
yeah, and then we have to
The
make a
town has to
decision.
say.
Right.
And then the
And
select
the
board
select
decides
board
whether, how
decides
to react
whether-
to the public hearing. I mean, that's the path that we were
Yeah.
planning to go down.
So as long as it makes it, as long as it makes it to the budget hearing, it's
Right.
not disingenuous at all.
I'm good with that. That's, I mean, I think that's the path that we were planning to go all along. And this was just to,
When is the budget?
Wait, it'll be in the beginning of February.
yeah. Bob, Margaret, are you okay with, the approach? I mean, that was our going in approach. I think it's our going out approach today.
Yep.
Okay, I think unless anyone has any last words on this, yep. Brooke, mhm.
That's just the outcome. I just want to follow through with what the community wants to do. But I will say that this is definitely going to be happening in the future. This is not something that's
Mhm.
that's never gonna happen. It's just, I mean, look at the room, you know, it's different. It's gonna be different for people that are hiking. They already are attached to their phone when they're hiking, whether we like it or not. You know, we may have our own interest in the way that we hike. But it's just a fact, you know, and it's not gonna be that much further in the future that this is happening everywhere and available everywhere by many different platforms. And I just wanna state that as a observation of mine, and I'm pretty sure that's the bottom line, whether or not we like it or not. So just wanted to say that.
Mhm. Okay, good. We're good. All right.
Thank you. for
Thank
the
you.
input.
Appreciate you guys coming. Appreciate the discussion. It was very helpful.
Yeah.
Location.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to, I think, the discussion of the location of the 2023 budget hearing and
I don't know
town.
how long the brief, I don't know who's gonna go with it.
Well, I think it could, I think,
Teach us a lesson at some point.
yeah. No, I think we should go, let's just go to the budget hearing, I think, and town meeting. So we have, I see we have two school board members with us, here with us today. Oh, including the chair, Mike Fergal, and I. So Mike, the select board, I think in late December or mid-December, I think it's your last school board meeting, asked if to use the gymnasium for our March 14th polling and afterward deliberative session. So have you guys made a decision?
We have not. So we've been in communication, and I'm glad there's people here, because I think it's hard to have just the select board and school board make a decision like
is.
this.
Mhm.
So here's the situation as the school board sees it. We have no problem with the deliberative session at all. It happens after school hours. It's in the gymnasium. It is a minor inconvenience to rec department programming, because it's gonna be set up for it. It's gonna be a minor inconvenience to the school for their PE activities. It's a minor inconvenience. So that's not the issue. The issue is with the polling. Polling has to be open for 4 hours, right? Ken?
Actually, we have to discuss that, but yes.
Okay, so the issue we have is with the polling, because the polling is gonna be happening during school hours. And so we have made a decision as the board that we're not gonna have public come into that building while the students are in school. So either we change the polling location, or we change the school to be either no school or half-day school. So that's an inconvenience to the school. Tim has proposed and offered that the conference center be available for both the polling and the deliberative session. They can set up the conference center as stadium seating as opposed to round tables, and it could fit multiple hundreds of people in there. There's better parking at the conference center than there is on the road, and I know we discussed with the chief payer about the parking situation, that they're not gonna ticket people on the road on that night, because, you know, we have no parking on the road, but they're gonna let it go for that night. But there is definitely better parking at the conference center. So that's where the school board stands. School board is not gonna allow the polling to happen at the school while the school children are attending school. So if we could find a polling place that's different, maybe this room, maybe the conference center, or whatever that would be, we're fine with the deliberative session being at the gymnasium. That may be causing inconvenience to the moderator for having to have polling in one location and deliberative session in another location, or alternatively, we do the whole thing at the conference center, free of cost to the town, get a contract with them so you can poll the resort accountable for the space and make sure it doesn't change. And, you know, do the whole thing there. So that's the school board's position on this.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to mention too, that we've had a change in terms of the polling hours, a potential change. Town council has strongly recommended that we go with the state standard, which is 8 hours, not the 4 hours that we've been doing. And that's why I think we've asked, I think Jean to be here and Terry to be here. That is the
So
checklist and the town clerk to discuss this issue
we,
as part of this larger discussion. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the town has talked about this over the years, over the past 10, 15 years. We have gone back and forth for town meeting, not the general elections or presidential or any of that. But the question about how long for the polls to be open for town meeting has always been a question. We have gone as low as 4 hours. We've had proposals to have it open only a couple of hours. Town council, there is nothing in the statute that specifically states town meeting polling hours will be open X number of hours. However, there is a standard for a state election, and that is 8 hours. Town council's recommendation is that we keep the town meeting hours, because we are a subsection of state government, that we
Mhm.
follow as closely as we can that standard. Okay, so the recommendation is
Mhm.
for more is better.
Mhm.
Okay, so if we can have it open for 8 hours, that is their preference and that is their recommendation. If we want to do something less than that, then we can technically, because there's no written standard. But we do run the risk of disenfranchising voters and being questioned why we didn't meet that state standard. So that is the thought process behind town council's approach.
So that would
So-
move us from a half day.
If we go to 8 hours, so that's
Well,
why,
it's also an issue for
Right.
the moderator.
and that's why we invite, so I wanted to get the,
Election officials, that's a huge day
Right.
now. So, you know, maybe not going the entire 8 hours. I think we have some good reasons for not doing it, but trying to do as much as we can, and definitely not going
Less than
below our 5 hour standard that has been pretty much in place for probably the last 8 or
so let me
10
get let's please tell the board, the folks here who run the elections, we just
Yep.
try to make sure you got the right place. What you guys think about this particular view?
I don't think that I'm sorry, Jean Mullen, excuse me. I don't think we need 8 hours for 400 voters. And we've done well without that, but I think that 4 hours is very narrow. And I agree with the concern about disenfranchising some people. Couldn't we do 11, which is normally our starting time anyway, 11 to 5, which would be 6 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's up to us.
Again,
Yeah.
that's,
We normally start our general elections at 11 anyway. So it's a common time for us to start.
Mhm.
And we started then, ended at 5.
Well, it's the clerk, the supervisor, ballot clerks, I can rotate, I can do shifts. It's you guys that are limited people that you're gonna be there all day.
Terry or
Well,
Reggie?
We're there all day for the general election. And
Right,
the voting then doesn't stop until 7. We have to get through the town meeting though, which is going to be,
and
Lengthy.
potentially continue another night. And we have the night before, we have the school.
Correct.
right.
Oh.
Have the school deliberative session on Monday.
I know, yeah. It's
Right.
gonna be just a long period for that
Right.
week. But I honestly don't think we need a
Okay.
full 8 hours.
Terry or Reggie from the town clerk office?
From the town clerk's perspective, there's only really 2 of us that really have anything that has to be carried out. I think a couple hours one way or another, since this is gonna be going a few days, isn't really gonna make much difference. I'm willing to put in that whatever time is necessary, but it doesn't really bother me one way or the other, and Yeah, Reggie never has enough to do anyway, but. Big rate for that.
Okay. And Patty, as the town moderator, what's your view of the 8 hours?
Too, I think the question I have for you guys is if we have the poll in one location. And the meeting in another location, how does that affect you? And if we did split the location, how much time would you need between? From one to the other?
Yeah. Excuse me. On that point, I don't think we should do it. I think one place for everything. Would be much better, and. I don't know why, if parking is a problem. For the polling, parking is just as equally a problem for the town meeting. And we might as well have a place then where everybody can park and be there. In the polling, people come and go, so it's
Mhm.
not, it's not like they're there. But at the town meeting, we're gonna have hopefully 400 people show up, probably not, but
You and Miles.
optimistic. But even if we have 200 people show up, that's a lot of cars.
Mhm.
And I think the conference center probably is going to be a better bet for us.
Can I ask a question?
Sure,
Town council gave their opinion.
right,
Can I assume this is in writing?
yes. Well, I mean, via email.
Close enough to write.
Mhm.
Nobody gets parchment and pen anymore. So, but this is something that, should something arise. Should something say they were disenfranchised?
Yes, someone complaining that they
All you need is one.
could only vote in the morning and on the way to work.
This
and
Somebody
that sort of thing.
comes
Right.
along and says, wait a minute, you intentionally disenfranchised me.
Well, unintentional.
No,
No,
Which they can vote absentee if they're worried about the hours. They have.
It is a risk, Mike. That's why we're discussing it.
I understand everything. Jeannie is saying. It is in writing. I hate doing things that are opposite what we have a legal opinion of.
We have not necessarily gone along with the town council
Council on
legal
many
opinions on
occasions.
everything. So it is an issue, but it is you raise a valid point, and that's why we wanted to discuss it.
I want to be clear on what was said. You have a copy of the email.
Yes,
So they did not say
you must.
that we must keep it open for 8 hours. It was, there is nothing in statute
What does it say?
that's,
I'm getting it.
no, well, I would rather.
I am not seeing any minimum polling hours for town elections, just requirements that the polling hours be included on the warrant.
So the safe course of action will be to do what we usually do, which is default to state law, which is state standard.
I would recommend that the
Yeah.
polls be open no less than is required for state elections, which is 8 hours.
Okay.
And
But
that's a,
again, I would tell you, we go to town council for counsel, not for a decision.
I just want to see exactly what was said, because I think that in our discussion, it is important that we understand that which town council, and I understand we don't always follow town council. A lot of people don't always follow what attorneys say.
That's
And I understand,
the dice.
but it kind of is there.
All right, so please, Margaret.
Do you have any concerns about conference center as a location?
I've been reading all the town government legal stuff I can find about town meeting in the last month, and I found nothing about minimum hours for polling. And I think that's because the state specifically is leaving it up to the towns, because the town needs to staff it. And so the towns know best what is best for them, and I think I disagree with the town council.
I just read the statute yesterday. And at the end of it, it says, the select board will set the town polling hours. for
Yes.
the
Mhm.
town
yes,
session.
and that is what
And that's
town
what it
council
is.
is saying.
Any
So
minimum,
there
maximum,
is no minimum.
recommendations, nothing. It's up to our select board to decide.
So are we happy 11 to 5?
That's what I do.
That's where I would go. If that's the decision, then we can roll back into our larger discussion.
So 11 to 5 is still not, we need to go to 12 for schools for the kids to get credit for the day. Just, that's the half day is the rule is 12.
Okay.
12 or 12:15.
I think it's 12.
Do 12 to 6.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, we could do 12 to 6 as well. Let's get to the larger issue of the school, the location, yeah, school versus the conference center. Let me just throw some things out and then everybody can comment. So we've been at the school for how many decades? I wasn't able to figure out the total number, but it wasn't until COVID that we moved away from using the school gymnasium for what is a fundamental democratic municipal process, voting. It's really what we're talking, voting, and we want to do the voting in the same place we do the deliberative session, because it just it doesn't, not only is it more helpful and easier for the people administering the process, but it's less confusing for the voters. They go one place, they know where to go, and whether it's the town business session or the voting or the school district meeting, it's all in one place. People know where to go on those dates and times. So we've always done it that way. Well, for a number of decades, and since we outgrew this particular room. And I look at a couple other things in this regard. I look at the other schools, for example, in the school district. I think there are 7 other towns in the school district, and 2 of them have municipal facilities or community center big enough to hold these town meetings. We don't have that parenthetical comment yet, but that's another one of those issues in front of the town. But we don't have a taxpayer funded facility to hold this process, to have this process. That would be Campton and Holderness. 4 other schools, Thornton, Plymouth, Rumney, and Wentworth, 4 other towns, excuse me, hold their elections and deliberative in the school. And they don't seem to have an issue with school day or school security. Ellsworth, I think they're so small, they do it in the town library, I think. I was only able to. Right, so I think they do it in the town library, their election and deliberative session, because they're so small. So the default has been, and there's even literature put out by the Homeland and Security Emergency Management Department of the New Hampshire Department of Safety, what to do, how to handle elections in schools. So it's a taxpayer funded facility whose primary purpose is indeed that of a school. But when it was approved, it was also meant to be used for other civic functions, whether it's the rec department program or whether it's things like elections. And I hear what you're saying, Mike, but even though it's primary, it seems to me that you have perhaps 110, if you want to throw in the kids, 150 people, basically through your decision, not allowing the rest of the town to use a taxpayer funded facility. All the other 530 residents, as well as the many hundreds of property owners who pay taxes. So I'm philosophically, I have difficulties with, as a public official, not going and using a public a facility that was funded by the taxpayers for a civic purpose, which was one of the reasons why it was constructed. Now, as far as parking, security, maintenance of the area, with snow removal and all of that. I mean, the select board has talked to the Department of Public Safety. The select board has talked to the Department of Public Works, and the town staff is quite confident that they can deal with any parking or maintenance issues at the school, which of course also has the benefit of having a generator. So for some reason we lose power, we won't at the school, and we can continue with our primary civic function. And I also look at the fact that the school board does allow other functions to happen at the school when the children are there. For example, most recently, you've created a basketball team. And how many dozens of outsiders are in the gym when all the kids are there? A lot of the children are there from the school. We don't even require a any presence from the Department of Public Safety for that, which we do require, or for parking, which we will require for this public civic event. So I understand where you're coming from. I just find it's perplexing to me as a public official that we can't deal with these issues as public officials, as you are as well, and allow the people to use a facility that they paid for. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I've said enough.
The handicap accessibility is also an issue with the school versus the convention center.
There is the issue of the convention. Thank you. I did want to say, I forgot to say something about that. So the issue with the convention center, aside from perhaps not having a generator, an unreliable, what appears to be an unreliable handicap accessibility, and there are pluses to it as well. We would have to secure a contract, and it could not be. I mean, I've thought about this a lot since you guys brought it up. I would not want to ask the biggest taxpayer in town to give us free access for several days to one of their most important money-making enterprises, and this taxpayer has business in front of the town. To me, that's getting too close to the line of rent seeking, or too close to the line of perception that they're doing us a favor, and then we make a decision, and someone could accuse us of having because they gave us this facility for 3 days for free, of having that influence our decision that was made in favor of one of their interests. So I think that's an issue. I mean, if we were to go to the conference center, I think we're talking at least 2 days, perhaps 3 days this year. If you wanted to throw the school district meeting into it, that would be 4 days. But just take from the municipal election, we'll have the Tuesday election there. We'll have the Tuesday business session there. We may have to go over another day into Wednesday. But again, we could recommend that it be Wednesday. But at that time, at the meeting, the vote could be taken. No, we don't want to meet tomorrow. We want to meet on Saturday. And so we'd have to construct a contract which will allow us to move to a Saturday from a Wednesday with no penalty. So it's going to cost the town money. It has its pluses and minuses, but it's going to cost the town money to go to the conference center, and we will be potentially tying it up.
Why is it this cost of town money?
Because we would expect to have market rate, a market rate contract.
Even if they say, no, we're not gonna give you market rate contract.
I would be very, yes,
Perception aside, they say, here's $1, we're gonna give it to you for $1,
right.
and we're gonna say no.
What did
Just,
we pay?
so this is like.
Yep.
this is like we-
I'm not saying we'll say that. I'm saying this is my perception of it.
So this is like having a movie theater in town. And we're showing movies at the gymnasium because it's a town thing. We have, but and not showing the movie at the movie theater, right? It's a bizarre, that's a bizarre argument to me.
I think
Just
it's a
because
fundamentally,
town
I think it's a
building does not mean
fundamentally
movies, but you have a
important
movie
argument.
theater.
The perception of corruption is very important.
I have a different question. And as a school board member.
Yeah.
The single most important thing to me, and I do understand that if we allow you into the school, starting at 12:15, that doesn't mean you start voting at 12:15. That means you can start coming into the building to set up at 12:15. All right, the single most important thing we should be looking at as school board members, as a school board member, is the single most important thing is what? The education of our children. I think that's the single most.
Yeah, but how does holding voting there
You're taking
prohibit?
instructional hours away.
Why would we be taking instructional? This is the philosophical difference.
Because
Why can you not have school in session as they do in Thornton, Plymouth, Rumney, and Wentworth? That's my question to that. That's my response to that
our
argument.
School uses the gymnasium during the time. I understand the whole question of security. I am very conscious of security. I'm very conscious that we are a safe community. All right, however, I would prefer, based upon all the insanity that happens around the country. Not to have the kids in school while this is happening. Unless the town wants to pay for metal detectors. I understand.
Would you have
what you're
metal
saying.
detectors at basketball games, Mike?
Where-
I mean, that's my fundamental, you see, see the inconsistency
basketball
I
game
see.
is a school function,
Yes, and you're allowing people in who have
And-
not,
right? However. We are doing a school function, the school is making that decision.
That's
Right.
outside of school hours.
It-
And it's after school.
if it's a, but if it's a school-sponsored function in which many school children are there, so if
After
security,
school hours.
if the security is an issue, then you're being inconsistent.
I have no
It's,
problem
our
with the-
security is more secure during elections than it is
I
during
have no
basketball
problem
games.
with the deliberative session. That's after school hours.
Okay.
Started at 3. We don't care. When the school's in session, if we're having people coming into the school and opening the school door to any resident to come into the school, that's where we have issue.
They're not
3
coming
o'clock,
into the
okay.
school, they're coming into the gymnasium and the rec department area.
Which is isolated from the school.
I mean,
It's
that's-
behind a locked door.
This,
It's behind multiple
this is
locked.
non-negotiable. You can fight as much as you want.
All right,
We as a
well, then
school
I
board-
guess
Okay, so
we,
the answer is
okay, so,
Non-negotiable that if it's at the, if the
Okay.
polling happens at the school, the kids are not gonna get.
we were always just looking for a decision, Mike. I was laying out my position. I like to hear what other select board members, they want to comment. I like to hear what the audience would have to say.
I agree with everything you said. I think it's appropriate for the town to use this gymnasium, but
But if the answer is no, then we'll find another
Right.
way to do
Right.
it.
Margaret, any comment on this? Okay, anyone in the,
So-
anyone
we'll-
here
We'll
want
have
to?
to.
Well, let me see if anyone
to
here,
the resort and set up.
Mark, let me just see if anyone here would like any of the. Anyone in the audience like to comment on this issue? All right, so what, shall we take it then? Do you want to do a formal vote? Or just gonna basically, are you telling us as a chair that you will not allow the, you will not agree to our, excuse me, I didn't mean allow, you will not agree to our request to use the school gymnasium for the polling hours of 11 to 5, maybe 12 to
I
6?
have to defer to the moderator.
Well, no, but I'm asking for a decision from the school board. Don't put the moderator in the middle of our disagreement, Mike, for a couple reasons.
It's
But-
not my decision.
Thank
No,
you.
it's not.
Is, I'm not happy with the handicap access at the conference center. I think, that's my biggest issue.
And there were issues with that, Patty, but I think you and I can talk and maybe we can find another.
Yeah, we'll have to make
way
it work.
Do that, and we'll find a way.
We'll have to make it work.
But
Yeah.
we'll talk before we do the contract with the resort.
Cindy?
There is, but in the winter time, at nighttime, I
We-
mean, we have to, there's gonna need to be people there ready to salt it,
We'll-
shovel it, light it.
didn't we have to do the same thing? The last 2 or 3 times we've held elections at the.
We were lucky
Yes,
with
that's the
weather.
point. And well, but there were.
And the
times
lighting
when
issues.
town, but we'll work that out with the contract.
I think the election workers in town are fantastic and will rise to any occasion,
Yep.
anywhere.
Yeah, there's never any question about that.
Outside, And
Yeah.
they
Right.
will do it, we will get it done and to the best of our ability, so.
But I think the point was that.
The board had asked-
Needed a.
We needed a decision based on our
We have
views
an
of
answer,
why we should
And-
use the
and
gymnasium.
we can,
Okay, yeah, I mean, Cindy, I think Cindy raised her hand, so.
No, the only question,
Yeah.
not a question, a statement, why was it such not a non-issue before when we had it at the conference center? None of this was brought up, that's my.
We actually have been discussing this with the school board for,
you know,
I don't know how long, Mike, last couple of
Since
years.
COVID, right? So
Since COVID.
Correct.
Yeah.
COVID is what drove us to the conference center, and the school board's position is we should go back to the gymnasium now. That's really the,
The select board.
excuse me, the select
The
board.
school board's position was.
That was a faint hope. I might be able to sneak that through. All right. So I think we're done with that discussion.
Some problems with the generator. Let's not leave that.
No, there are
There are
pluses and
problems
minuses
with
with the,
electricity
with
at
the conference center.
And Tim says that he's got plenty of generators. He'll make sure there's a generator.
Well, we'll
But
secure, we'll discuss with the owners of the conference center a contract and the cost and what we need for requirements, and then we will discuss it further with the town moderator to make sure it meets
So I'm
her.
assuming that the school
concerns.
district is going to also utilize conference center?
We can.
Okay,
I
so
think-
will
I
you
think-
have a separate contract, or do you want us to have a,
You want to include in
do you want
ours?
it included in ours?
yours, because the AV is gonna be set up as well.
Well, there will be no.
Well, it'll be
outside
whatever the
AV,
conference center-
Whatever the conference center. is gonna
We won't
provide.
need that extra expense.
Right,
So we're not going to have, we're not gonna have an outside.
I
AV.
believe they said they have the facilities available.
Yeah, and last year it was horrible.
It did, that's,
It was
there are
horrible. You
issues.
could not, if it was being televised, you could not hear anything.
I think at a public hearing, I
We'll-
think it was a real
We'll
problem.
work on that as part of the contract.
Are you saying it
Just-
was live? Does it need to be live? I mean,
Well-
I think that was because of COVID. Do we plan on having it
There-
broadcast live?
We broadcast everything live. We also record everything for minutes and things like that.
Mhm.
And what was, the conference center has been renovated, so I don't know what the current situation is there. But we'll, again, that'll be part of the contract.
All right, well, we'll
So
work
we'll
on
do
that.
a contract, so I need the hours from the school district sent to my email so that we can include them in the contract.
Yeah, that's one request I do have, that whatever time the school meeting is, that Monday night is the same time that the town meeting is, just.
The next,
And so the,
All nights.
and the
all
other
potential
part of
nights.
that, Mike, is the February, I'm assuming that we want the taxpayers to go to the same place
I would assume so.
for the budget hearings.
For the
So if
public
you can
hearings.
Give me your plans for your budget discussion.
Yeah.
We'll
Right.
set that up.
So it won't only be just for the
It's
March
gonna be
14th.
February.
It'll be for
and
the
March.
budget hearing, how
Right.
many we have.
Right.
Yeah.
We have at least two, right?
We'll
One for the
have
school and one for the town.
School and one for
School,
the
one
town.
for the town.
Right, but are we gonna do the bond at the same time as we did the?
That's.
We
up
haven't
to you.
decided that yet,
So
right?
you have to
Okay.
decide.
All righty, if there's no further.
Do we need a
comments-
motion for this or that?
No, we just
Okay.
received the decision, so we'll just have to move forward with
Yep.
with
So
the
we'll start
finance contract.
working-
Okay.
We'll start working.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the rigorous discussion and letting everything air. It's always good. Let me move to the race center discussion now. I think, Ellen, you said you had to leave by 11.
Yes.
So why don't we go ahead and, yeah, I believe you have a presentation for us?
Well, I'm gonna
Or
read
just-
something.
Oh, okay,
There's a presentation.
Go for it.
And I'll see where I'm going.
go for it.
And, my memory is that I did, probably in September, I was here and had this good discussion. And I can't remember a thing I said. Where I am.
Yeah,
So this is the bottom line.
I know that feeling.
Right. That, try and organize some thought. Well, I guess this conversation at the end of the day is about the preschool. Whether there will be, or will not be a preschool. Without public support, town support, there will not be a preschool. The race center just does not have the resources to support this in perpetuity. Now, towards that goal, I am attempting, I speak for the board. I think I speak for the board. I have prepared a petition for inclusion for a warrant for March. Okay, and requesting X dollars for the race center, since it's the race center, but this is really about the race. And in doing the petition, and I think you may have a budget that was prepared.
Yes, I think we have something forward of, right.
Okay, so. We have a petition, we will attempt to get the necessary number of signatures. And this is just all about to get a warrant for open discussion.
Excuse me, Jean, Patty, could we, thank you.
So there can be discussion. Perhaps amendment, which I would expect at this time, and ultimately a vote, yea or nay. Over this issue. The budget I gave you is kind of in flux, more I think about it, the presentation, but the bottom line, so. In doing the petition. I had a blank for X dollars, I just didn't know if that made any sense or was possible. So I put in the petition. I said, well, go high because it's easier to amend something down, unlikely to amend it up. So the petition is put together asking for $50,000. The budget says we're short about 35. And I think that probably will be adjusted somewhat down. The bottom line is that it represents someplace between, say, 50 cents and $1 a week for each housing unit. Now, I don't think anyone, and incidentally, there is an article written to be submitted for publication for February of the Wigwag. And depending on this conversation, there'll be an addendum or something. So let me express it. Currently, there are 6 signed up for the next year. I'm talking about the year 23-24, starting several months out. There are currently 6 signed up because we're tuition funded. Okay, if we add 1, 2, 3 more students, it changes the dynamics
And
of
the
the
tuition
budget.
is,
It's about $8,500 a year for the school year for the 10 months for a student. Now, other dynamics that have happened is that a couple of people have moved to the valley because there's a preschool for their kids next year. And so that's a little awkward. So my perception is this is all about getting something for March. Debate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However it winds up, it winds up. In the absence of having this discussion, it's over.
You mean the preschool?
The preschool is over. We just can't, we don't have the
Are
resources.
are you saying that the 25,000 the town is planning in our, we haven't finished our budget discussions, but as part of our operating budget is not going to be
that
enough?
was for maintenance.
That's for maintenance.
No, that's the,
No.
no.
That's maintenance and that's operations.
That's the, I'm talking about the operational, we give
Yeah.
25, it's not the maintenance of the building.
Fungible, so it's difficult to
Well-
say what's for what, how do you allocate Leah? If you say she's the second teacher, the school looks terrible. But operationally, we're okay, if we split her 50, you still wind up basically with the same
Right,
bottom.
but my bottom line question is, it's not enough, is what you're telling us, to run all your programs in a preschool.
The historic allocation, which goes back, I guess, to 2006, is inadequate, and in some ways it's always
Okay.
been inadequate. Now, we have a lot of, I guess, Rumville is saying known unknowns. We don't know the number of students. We don't know how
Right.
much the fundraising will be, et cetera, et cetera. And then as you always said.
I want to come back to that point about inadequacy of the 25,000, but let me just take a
Right,
comment
first of all,
from,
we started with the 25,000, there was no preschool. But the bottom line is we have to make a decision. Do we want a preschool or do we not want a preschool? We can find something to do with the Ray Center if we have to. Do we want a preschool? Do we think it's a valuable thing? Brings in people, we have a lot of young families, we want this place to be vital and young and have people. Do we want a preschool? Bottom line is $8,500 is not. The tuition is not making it for salaries. It's not making it. You can't really put it up to $14,000, $15,000. People aren't gonna pay. They can't pay for it. Raising it.
Mhm.
I don't think that's a fair thing to do. So we just have to decide if we want the preschool. Most preschools are federally funded. Yes, they are. Excuse me, they are, we looked it up. And,
if the town wants to help fund the preschool, we will have a preschool. If it doesn't, we won't. And it's basically that simple.
Okay.
We have to pay teachers. Now, if you say, okay, have more kids. More kids means more teachers,
Well,
still in the same boat.
it wouldn't, because the interesting thing, we are licensed,
Yeah,
and
but
also
license-
the article says. In conjunction with the town, the modifications were made. It's compliant, and we have a license. For up to 12 students in the preschool. We currently have,
And how many teachers with 12 students?
it wouldn't change.
Okay,
We
so
can accommodate 12 students the way we're.
Let me get back to, let's make one other thing here is. I think the argument a very good argument that the race center could make is that the $25,000 stipend. In our operating budget that we've given you since 2007, I believe it is,
Yes.
has never been increased because of inflation. So what would the number be now if we would, in other words, keep the same amount? So that's what I'm wondering. I don't know if it gets you out of the bind.
No,
but that's something-
what I've,
Okay,
that's what
go
I've been
ahead.
trying to say.
All right,
So
got it.
the $34,000 deficit
Right,
takes into account an adjustment for the inflation. So
okay,
it's
Say
the
that again,
inflation,
Mark.
the $34,000 deficit
Yes.
that we're
right.
referring
It becomes
to
37.
takes care of, or
Okay.
takes into account an adjustment of the 25,000 to 37,000 for the town's base
Okay.
assistance
Assistance in
Okay.
the operating budget.
in the operating budget. So, but that is based on a 50% total inflation
Over
to
13
now
years.
over the 13 years.
Or more.
So that number is the very first number on your sheet.
Right,
Okay, so that is currently the
but even with
25,000.
that,
But even with that, you end up with a $34,000 deficit.
which is the cost of this, the
Which-
preschool.
Which is the cost, well, the majority of that is the preschool. In fact, without the preschool, the net
Right,
is
Positive,
positive
right.
for
Right.
the running
of the race center.
center.
That's what I understood.
itself.
Okay. I
So-
understood.
I just wanted to make that clear to the board before we got into the
So
discussion.
the bottom line is, if we went from 25,000 to 37,000
Right.
for inflation. They're still losing 34,000, so the town, in order to make the race center whole, the town would be putting in $71,000 to support 6
Well-
kids in
But
preschool.
I would like to back up to what I said.
That's right.
Well, I do not want to debate the dollars at the moment. It's likely going to change. All I'm
Could change the other way too, though.
But it's what we have in front of us.
Can't get a warrant for discussion and possibly amendment. It's done.
Well, what we have in front of us is
Bob.
a proposed budget or a draft budget. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to what you just said, though, is it is a total of $71,000, but it's for all of what happens at the cottage, not just those 6 kids. So, I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. It is a total of $71,000. But it's for everything for the whole.
And if we increase it to 37,000, the race center could run the programs it has now with the exception of the preschool.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Margaret, did you have a
No, that's,
comment?
There are
Okay.
about 10 other programs that by the sector that are run.
Right.
And there are other things we could be doing or improving. et
Sure,
cetera.
sure. I mean, this
But I
is the
come
bare
back
minimum.
to,
Okay.
I don't want today to be an issue over the dollars. Like I was saying. It needs to be a warrant available for discussion. Amendment, I believe it can be amendment if someone wants to make an amendment to reduce it to.
We can in our budget discussions make a decision whether to go from 25 to 37 in the
Yes.
operating budget.
Yes, that is the question.
That is the question, I think.
have For you
That's,
guys.
that says I
is,
see it, right?
Do you want to adjust the 25 to 37? Because if you don't, we'll leave it 25. It's right now 25. And then that would change what the petition warrant article would have to raise. So
Is there any public discussion on this matter? Mike?
I think that there is, forget the dollars. for a second. There is a basic question here. And the basic question is, and I think it's an important question, considering
Do
the
it.
demographic we have of the town.
Say it.
Does the town want to have a preschool? Does the town want to have a preschool? One, does the town want to financially support?
Via the Ray Center.
Well, does the town want to financially support it through the Ray Center?
Right.
Or, I'm not offering this, or do we want to go back to what we discussed several years ago? Which was, do we want to try and bring the preschool into our school?
But that's not, I hear what you're saying. There are other alternatives, but
Well,
that's
the
not what we're
question is,
really,
The first step here really is. Right? With the demographics we have of the town. Should the town have a preschool?
right, and that they want to pursue it through a petition warrant, as I hear it. With the expectation, with the hope that the select board would raise from 25 to 37. The stipend in the operating budget, and then you can put your petition warrant together, so.
Look, at the end of the
Okay.
day,
I understand the larger
need X
argument.
dollars. Now, so this is all about getting to the point that can be discussion, amendment, and ultimately a vote.
Sure,
And I mean, I've just decided today in some ways, but I can't wait till August to tell students, parents, and teachers whether we're in business or not.
I think we understand. Yeah,
Now,
I think we get it.
you have to also understand. The people involved are trying very hard. We have not given a raise to the teachers since inception. Leah has reduced her pay. She's putting in just as much, and she has reduced her pay. There are no fringe, but it's just listen, but so that's where we are.
Okay, no, I thank you. I think
Now-
Mike has also
Well,
put forward that there's there's the larger philosophical question as to if this doesn't work, do we want to try another method? But what I'd like to do is really just get a sense of the board.
That's fine for the future, but we're looking at a short window here. What do
Yeah.
we do?
Right, and that's what I like to bring to the board.
You just let them vote.
Now. If it's possible for the board. To put a warrant on without our having to do a great maple dance to get it there, it would be appreciated. I don't know if you can.
It sounds
Not
like.
sure, but let's look at go ahead.
And the Ray Center is on life support. Basically, I mean, you don't have an executive director anymore, right?
Well, Leah,
I thought she was just a school teacher now.
no, she's
She's all-
all of the above.
You know, and without the town, the Ray Center would be losing $71,000. I think that
Without the preschool, it was 40.
without the town support that we see on this sheet, the Ray Center would lose $71,000.
25, yeah.
Oh, well,
Well, 30.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If-
we'd be given
The
71,000.
town would be,
if we eliminate the preschool.
so the question is, if you can have a preschool, does it have to be through the Ray Center? And we'd almost be better off to give those 6 kids $5,000 and say, go to Campton and, you know, find a preschool someplace else.
There's no preschool.
Well,
someplace else.
You know, somebody might start one if there was a bunch of students that were available.
Oh,
I mean, should we be supporting something that's on life support? I guess is,
it's-
I think the preschool is a
Well-
great thing, but at some point you gotta say,
Well,
does this make sense?
Bob, if it comes to that, that's the way it is. I don't care. I'm happy to give you the key back to the Ray Center. The building is yours. You figure out what to do with it.
Well, let me just quickly say, I mean, let's try to keep the apples and oranges in the right bushels here. I think one question is, if we increase our stipend from 25 to 37, the Ray Center will be able to run the programs it is running now, except for the preschool. And then the race center will then go forward, if I'm understanding correctly, with a petition warrant to see if they can get extra money from the town at town meeting to run a preschool. So I think the question in front of us, and everything you said, Bob, I understand completely. Margaret, we're doing all the talking. Is there anything you'd like to
The
say,
only thing
please?
I'm sitting here thinking about is the preschool was always very controversial.
Yep.
In the past because it served so few people.
Sorry.
Even though we understood it was part of supporting getting a population that would then go into the elementary school where we were concerned that the school population was getting so low that we wouldn't be able to do it. But if we have a petition warrant article that basically says support the Ray Center doing a preschool, and that warrant article goes down, we've got no way to make September happen
For the preschool,
for the preschool.
right?
Not through the town because it won't be in our
That's right.
budget, not through the school because it won't be in there.
Not unless you found a donor
Yeah.
who can
Yeah.
come forward.
Yeah,
Yes, even if short term, long term. And I think it's inevitable it happens that way, just like the trail system's going to change whether you vote for, that's the way of the world. But the school, if they were to become the preschool, cannot in 5 or 6 months' time,
No.
or perhaps a
they
year,
won't even have the budget for it.
be able to adjust to that. Now, what happens?
And neither will
longer
the
term, I don't
town.
know.
And neither will
I
the
think
town.
it's inevitable in the long term, there will be a preschool, eventually it'll likely be mandated.
Those are the other alternatives I think that Mike referred to. So I think the question for the board is, do we want to increase the stipend to 30? I think that's part one of the request so that they can go ahead with a petition warrant, but they can go ahead anyway
Right.
and just make up the difference and try to, it does make it cleaner if they're saying based on their proposed budget, you increase from 25 to 37, we can run all the other race center programs. Except the preschool. So the warrant can just be on the preschool
And can it be on the preschool for just 1 year with the condition that it needs to be discussed during that
It
year?
is only a 1 year.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
would be an appropriation just for 2023. It would
the
not.
town would
It
approve
would
the.
not
right,
be-
yeah. So Bob, Margaret, I think adding another 12,500 in the grand scheme of things and maybe settling this issue with regard to the preschool via the race center seems to be a practical way to approach this and to keep the race center whole, at least for the 2023, as far as all the other programs are concerned.
And the 50% number came from January 1, 2007.
Right. And you've reviewed the budget,
to
and so we're looking
November.
at pretty solid.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Numbers.
they have in there, there are other things, the grants, the fundraising, the program fees, they're all in there to support
Right.
the,
It's something that's in
So-
the article that I didn't mention, because there's so much that can be said. And I think I got it right. I hate to say something that's not right, but the mountain euphemistically has committed 10 grand to be used as scholarship money to help us build this.
right, but this,
So-
that's only if one of their that's only to be
Right.
used for those employees who utilize the program. So they'll be subsidizing their
Their own.
employees. So if this
Mhm.
6 includes 2 people from the resort, then some of that 10,000 can be used against those 6.
Right, you could
If
write the
it
warrant article
increases us to
to-
8, well, the warrant article, I think, is just that's up to them how they write
Right.
it. We've got to put it in whatever gets petitioned.
Right,
But I would suggest that they just put it in for the operation of the preschool, make it
I
specific.
don't know how I wrote
To
it.
that,
I don't
but-
have time to rewrite it.
But
And
it's
I'm right in saying
whatever they're,
I think we
Can
could help
be
with the writing
amended.
too.
at the
Yeah.
town meeting, and
Okay, it's good.
what gets voted gets
yeah,
voted.
whatever
Okay.
they petition.
All right, Bob, I haven't heard you about the
Well,
proposal of
if
going to
if
37.
we're gonna isolate the preschool as a kind of a separate issue.
Mhm,
And I look at the other programs, the nature programs,
mhm,
storytelling, literary group, speaker series,
mhm.
stargazing. Is that worth $37,000 to on the town budget? It sounds to me like a lot of money for programs that impact very few people. Each one of them impacts 5 to 10 people. I just don't know whether I feel comfortable.
Bob, have you attended stargazing?
No,
We've had.
I've attended speaker series.
We have up to 50 people that have attended stargazing. There's a lot of intrinsic value to the town about the Ray Center. You actually own it. If one wants to take the most negative approach, and I don't want to spend one dime. Okay, it's not mandated. Okay, you will get the key to the cottage back again, and there will be no program.
Let me ask Bob, we're giving them 25, is there a number beyond 25 that you feel comfortable with, or is even 25 too much? I think we've agreed on 25 today.
Yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable in 25, and maybe I feel comfortable going up a bit, but I do question. If it was a standalone issue, whether that would be something that the town would support. I don't know.
Let me go back to the very beginning. When the Ray Center came into being. They took over something that the town was doing. How much was the town paying at the time? Do we
Well,
remember?
Good point.
Well, right, that's where the $25,000 number came from.
Came
That
from
was
initially.
developed by our operation of the building
Mhm.
and the people that we were paying at the time that went under the Ray Center. 25,000 was actually less than what we were paying.
But the town
for
was
that.
paying for the
But the
programs.
town said the Ray Center at that time had a very robust grant
Mhm.
writing program and
Right.
those sorts of things.
Right.
So they said, well, if you can
Mutual of
subsidize us with this $25,000, we'll cover the rest of the costs that you currently incur with the running of the programs out of the cottage. And because we had a part-time employee, we had the, keeping the lights on and the
Mhm.
building maintenance.
And my
that
recollection
sort of
is
thing.
that it was something closer to 50,000 that
It-
the
it
that the
was-
town
it
was
was
paying.
higher,
So,
yeah.
so when this all started out and the Ray Center said, we're gonna take over this stuff that the town used to do. And we're asking for 25, the way we looked at it is, we're saving
We're saving.
$25,000.
Kinda
that we
like
would
the
have spent if it had stayed with the town.
That's a great point, Margaret. I don't know
Yeah.
what we're gonna do without you, so you cannot leave because you have all this knowledge that helps us
So
put in context all the
That's how it initially started with the town making a contribution, because if we were spending less money as a town than if we had kept it going under the rec department.
There was all kinds of dues and grants.
Right, right.
It was a different beast
And we're
back then.
paying rent at the town center.
Entire different animal.
Yeah.
Patty?
I have a question. If we're looking at what is the best use of that building? Right, it comes down to that at some point, and we're talking
Mhm.
about building a historical society place. And there's
Already
always,
used for the historic building.
right.
It could be.
I
it
mean,
could
do
be
we
that.
look at what are we using that cottage for, and is that the best use of it? Do we want to, I don't want to pay to build another building if we have a good one that could be used for it.
Well, I think the Historic Society was gonna get, like what do they call now, the Valley Sanctuary? It was gonna be outside money. It wasn't gonna be town, or we were gonna provide the
What I'm
land.
worried about is that eventually the town's gonna inherit all these buildings and have. to
Right.
pay them. That's- if we
A
have
very
permanent-
wise comment. Yes, please.
The Ray Center is a huge part of our history with the Rays, and it's a drawing thing too. And I think the building should continue to be a historic part of the town. And it should be pushed. It could be story time in there. It used to be, but now I've been removed. If the historical society takes it over, it becomes still a valued historical building in the town. And there's no reason why I couldn't do, I'm sure Reggie would allow me to have a few kids with some books and read them stories on Saturday morning in the historical society building. I don't make a mess.
Well, no, that was their intent, is to have their building more than just a place to show,
So
right?
it's to store things, and it could be history, it could be a lecture in history of the race. It could still be put to use. I don't want to see this building become nothing. We decide not to have a preschool, so be it. But the Ray Center is part of our history. I can read that.
Maybe you would say that that building should not be used. I think the building could be used for.
Let me, we're veering off into, again, one of these overarching philosophical, no, that's okay, discussions of whether, Ray Center or not. Let me just say, because we do need to move along, partially because Helen is calling me, but yes, and Amy knows that Helen rules the roost, as I was banished down to my office last Friday, and yeah. In any event, no, let me say this. There's always the opportunity at town meeting for someone to point to an item in the operating budget and say, I want to discuss this, I want to take it out. So whatever number we
Or I
put
want to
in,
raise it.
or I want to raise it, that is always possible to be done. If someone wants to have the larger discussion of whether we want even the Ray Center programs and any town funding of any of those programs. So I'd like to set that particular issue aside and just concentrate on whether we want to raise the stipend. And so
Does that get into the Wednesday budget discussion, finalizing the budget?
we could wait till then but you guys need,
Right, but,
Yeah.
but in order, do I show you the number with it or without it? Is my question to you today. Do you want the Wednesday numbers that you look at to be with 25 or with 37 at this point? And we can again change it after Wednesday if you want, but what is the starting point you want?
I'd go with 37. There's a rationale for taking that money up, given inflation.
I feel the same way.
Can I reiterate, please? The money discussion, for my purposes at the moment, is for the future. Amendments of the future. I want to kind of assure or understand that there will be a warrant article that will get discussed, beat up, amended.
If you meet all the legal requirements to put a petition warrant article forward,
So that's the answer is you have to do the petition. They're not going to do.
Towards that goal, because some people have said, rather than cutting it off, the populace should have discussion and vote. Are members of the board willing to sign the petition, which is designed just to get the warrant?
well, we can't act like, we can act individually as residents of the town. I wouldn't speak to anyone else
They
on the
shouldn't
board.
say that from here. You should
It's-
talk to them afterwards.
if you want,
Not-
if you're looking for a
To take off, but I will
Right.
read petitions for signature.
I think what I hear happening is that the board will be willing to increase, looks like a 2-to-1 vote, the stipend to 37 to account for inflation. But beyond that, it'll be up to the Ray Center to determine its petition article and what it wants to say with regard to the
And
school.
the town can help you with the wording
Oh, yeah,
of the.
it's already done. Okay, well then, anybody else? Anybody else would like to, do we actually need a motion to do that to 37? We're good.
We'll
Right.
put the
It's still,
number in.
we're still discussing.
So all I would ask.
Thank you.
Tina is volunteer since I have to leave the valley. She'll have a couple of petitions that people here would be
Yeah.
kind enough. All I'm
And-
looking for is discussion.
It'll happen it'll happen at the public hearing and then it'll happen at, right, no dogs. So,
Dogs should be able to vote.
right. Right, it'll be two times, Tina, you have it at the, as a warrant article, it'll be at the public hearing and it will also be a town meeting. All right, if we're done with that issue. Can we move on to the review of the fourth quarter water sewer bill insert topics? That sounds really exciting after all these.
Oh, it is
I saved the
It
best
is
for
the
last.
best for last.
So can somebody tell me what Hannaford's manager said?
I had the same exact question. I don't think,
I did not call the manager. Do you want me to call the manager?
I think so.
I mean, I'm happy with the other,
I'm happy with, the Trex, the second one.
yeah,
Mhm.
I'm happy with the last one.
I just don't know about the second to the last one.
Yeah,
Everything
I,
else
I
is
cross
fine.
out the second to the last one and I cross out the first one.
what's
And-
the issue with the first one, Bob? In your
What-
mind?
I think it's a slap in the face of people that come here to tell them they gotta take their trash back where they came from. I don't think that's a friendly resort.
It's good, I didn't think of that, that's,
I think
Yeah.
that's,
It's just an option, but.
it's like you drive into Maine, there's about 5 signs when you drive into, cross the border into Maine, that all the things you shouldn't do and it's it's a
Don't bring
very
firewood, right.
unwelcoming sign. So I don't feel comfortable with that.
You could-
The food waste one I'm okay with. I just say that this, we
Yeah.
encourage people to reduce their food waste and
Yeah, I think
the
that's-
citizens recycling group encourages people to educate on composting and
change it
Yeah.
to, so this is from the Citizens Recycling Group.
I'd make it clear that it's the citizens
Right.
recycling group that's.
Would you feel
Well,
on the
it's right
first,
there at the top.
they do
Tips
say at the
from.
top,
It
tips,
says tips from.
maybe
the
we can make it
citizens.
know it's-
larger,
I
I'll
sort
make
of
yeah,
repeated it, but
I think you could rephrase the first one.
yeah,
That says many people with extensive recycling in their hometowns are taking their
right, right.
recyclables back home. As opposed to, because we do recycle some things. here.
Yeah, we do. If you reside in a town that recycles household waste, consider carrying recycle, is that lesson enough?
yeah,
Many people are already doing this and their efforts are appreciated.
yeah.
Something
maybe
like that,
soften it.
if we soften the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're okay and all the bullets with
Because we
some
do recycle
language,
tons
change
of
stuff for the
recycling.
Hannaford supermarket
Yeah,
bullet.
yeah.
I think, is that,
So we'll take that out.
take that
Yeah,
one
I-
out and you've heard the sort of,
I
Again,
I
I
made some
do
of
not
them too.
believe that the manager wants us to haul all your stuff down there and put them in the small
No.
blue bins outside of the store.
Okay.
I believe in the last discussion I heard about that, you're right, I think the manager was like. I think he basically said whoever he spoke to, that there are 3 or 4 bins.
Mhm.
They're used to seeing people come in with a small, like, plastic bag.
Yeah.
full, And that's about it.
Yeah.
So we'll have 4 bullets
Mhm.
and
I do that, I go to Hannaford, it's really hard to take the top off. so you can
Yes.
dump a lot.
Yeah, they know.
there's a reason why they have the little hole there. That's my opinion.
move the top.
That's the way, that's the implication to my mind. Okay, so I think, guys, anything further in that issue? Bob, Margaret, okay.
And then on the reverse, we'd like to promote the hours of operation at the transfer station.
Oh, yeah, that was gonna be in there too, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
And.
Big bold letters.
Yes, big bold letters. Anything else you'd like us to?
Encourage people to go to the information sections or watch it online. Absolutely about the way.
Yeah, town meeting.
Yeah, yeah, we bring up some of the, right,
Once I'm comfortable with the FAQs.
all right. Excellent, all excellent suggestions. All right, well, that's that. Do we have a reason to go into non-public session?
Yeah, you have
Okay.
an agreement for land purchase.
Right. Yes, Amy.
Is that allowed? Can I ask a question? It's irrelevant.
Sure, I'm opening up privilege of the floor too, so, or one, I should say. I didn't open it up at the beginning, so.
Thank you so
Yes, what would
much.
you like to address the board about?
I was talking to Wendy Rathberger.
Mhm.
Right.
And she's, you know, the head of the CI of the planning board, which the CIP is a piece of. And she said that the CIP report for last year included the new wastewater treatment facility as a line item, and she said it showed a certain amount for 2021 and later years. But the one I look at in the annual report does not show it, so I'm wondering if.
The CIP itself is not in the town report.
Okay.
The information that you're seeing in the town report only refer to the fiscal year that we're
Oh.
voting on.
Okay.
So-
okay, that explains.
Yeah.
it. So how do I get my hands on the actual CIP report? Because she told me it's all public, but I couldn't find it on the website.
I'll get, what would you like?
I'm just curious to see that there was a plan and that the wastewater treatment facility was discussed.
Yes,
In
I
the
will,
plans for the future.
I will provide you with the 22 to 28 CIP.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. Let me know when we're off, Steve, and well, do I have a motion to go into non-public?
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
All right.
Aye. Let me know when we're off, Steve.
Sure thing.
Would you rather be someplace else, Margaret?